All right, so I'm going to go on a small rant here about the PBD podcast, so the Patrick Bet David podcast on the Valuetainment channel on YouTube if you're looking for it. Um, so they are a political news and just general news type show. Usually they have four main people on the show with Patrick Bet David, I would say, basically operating as the host, if you will, and of course chiming in with his opinion as well. Um, but anyway, so they've got Tom. Tom is a great. It just seems like a really solid guy, solid values. He's on the upper edge of the age range of the hosts on the show, and he's seems to have a lot of business experience and background, and overall just a guy that it's not hard to agree with him on a lot of things that he says. They've got Vinny, who's kind of the flaming angry patriot guy, and while I could probably identify with some of his feelings, I would tend not to be quite as whole hog on on his maybe some of his views, kind of hardcore Trump loving right wing sort of deal. Then you have Adam. Now, I don't know why Adam is a part of the show, honestly, or at least maybe I don't know why he's part of the show. His takes, he has some really, really bad takes, in my opinion. Now, of course, it's my opinion. So, that's maybe, I guess that's probably why they have him on the show, is for diversity, I suppose. He has traditionally been maybe a little bit more left wing. I think he's moved center. So, I would say that on the whole, that he's probably center, right, by now. I would say I think he's kind of moved some over time, but not single, living a very, I think somewhat of a playboy lifestyle is my impression from what they say on the show. Don't know him personally, so I don't know what his life is actually like. And just not a guy that necessarily comes across as being necessarily smart or wise. Okay, now that's kind of harsh. That's kind of how it comes across. Now he might be smarter and he might be wiser than what he appears. Maybe it's his job on the show to kind of give slightly left of center opinions that sound kind of ridiculous at times. I'm not sure. So recently I saw there's a section or a topic on their show talking about being selfish, and as it pertains to having a family, and I was pretty much sure that Adam was going to have a terrible take on this topic. Now, I didn't listen to the entire video, disclaimer, but sure enough, he started off talking about how that when you don't have a family, you should be super selfish. That's your chance. You should be super selfish. So my feeling, kind of going into the episode or the clip, was kind of like feeling like I have no affinity for where Adam is at, living from my point of view a very immoral lifestyle, and not espousing the values that I hold dear of faithfulness to my wife, taking care of my children, and living a life that to me seems like it's probably a lot more meaningful than what his life is. Now, to be fair, I'm sure he's a lot more money than I do. And so I'm sure there's parts of his life that are probably amazing compared to what mine are. But anyway, as I was reading the comments and I was thinking about this stuff a little bit more, and then it kind of occurred to me, like I maybe kind of came into it with this idea of like, Adam, he should be settling down. He should be having children. He should be living a better life. Now, I agree that he should be living a morally more pure life, absolutely. But if you're going to be the kind of person who lives very selfishly as a single person, it doesn't raise the question about whether or not you should get married and whether you should have children. I mean, like, if you're, so in a way, it may be one of those things where, indeed, if you are motivated and you have good motivations for having children and for raising, for having a family, then I think it's a beautiful, wonderful thing and what God intended. If you are, a selfish person, if you do have major issues that you have not resolved in your life, and you don't want to get married, you don't want to have kids, and then I'm actually leaning in the direction of that's maybe a good choice. Like, why would why subject children to all of your unresolved issues, and so anyway, I do believe that God is pleased with more and more children coming into the world, and I believe that He takes very seriously how those children are treated based on what Jesus said in the New Testament. But perhaps, perhaps it's okay for some people who, well, first of all, I'm not saying that having a family is what God calls everybody to. In fact, you could even make the argument that Jesus encouraged people to not be married, and Paul encouraged people to not be married and to live single lives. So certainly there is some scriptural precedent there for that. But anyway, I do believe that as much as God loves us, it seems odd that He that He would not want, on the whole, that He would not be pleased to have people come into the world. So I think on the whole, God is pleased with that. Anyway, so there are a few of my thoughts on who should have children, and whether or not there is a moral imperative to have children.